Hi, Karen with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a scrapbook layout for Kitaholic Kits, and this is the June kit. Oh my goodness, you are going to absolutely love this kit when you receive it in the mail. I know I certainly did. We have got a heap of Vicky Bouton's Sweet Rush in this one this month. Wonderful stencils, and we've got some gorgeous paste as well to go along with the mixed media kit. We've got some pink fresh florals as well. I mean, what can you do? I mean, seriously, pink fresh florals are absolutely to die for. I love them. And we also get the cardstock stickers. We get some ephemera and tags as well, and enamel dots, and these gorgeous papers from the Sweet Rush collection as well. Vicky Bouton always does the colours in her ranges so beautifully. There's a mixture of greens and blues and yellows and pinks, and her blues are always to die for. I love the way the colour tones that Vicky gets in her collections. So in one way, it was actually hard to decide what I was going to do with my layouts this month because everything was giving me inspiration. The biggest piece of pattern paper that gave me the inspiration today, though, is this gorgeous rainbow patterned paper. I mean, look at that. It is absolutely stunning. So I'm going to do a layout today that I guess is a bit themey. I'm creating a rainbow that's going to arc across the page. I'm going to create a sky. So I'm... Hopefully, you'll hang around with me while I'm creating it this time. This particular layout did take me quite a couple of days to actually get it completed. I had an idea in my mind, and there's lots of components. And when I started doing my editing, I had hours and hours of footage. And because there's lots of components, it was hard to cut it down to being any shorter than what I've done today. So hopefully I will give you a little bit of inspiration along the way, and I hope you have an opportunity to stick with me as I'm building this one for you today. So to start off with, I have fussy cut out all those rays of the rainbow, and I have distressed all the edges with my distress tool as well. And I'm going to create a sky. I mean, a rainbow layout needs a sky. So to do that, I have pre-gessoed my white cardstock because I know I'm going to use lots of water and sprays on my layout, on my background. And I'll go through the inks that I'm using today. So I'm using Distress Oxide Spray in Salvage Patina, and that came in our kits last month, so the May Mixed Media kit, which I think there are still some available. So this Salvage Patina colour, I think, is one of my favourites. Along with Mustard Seed, it is a beautiful, beautiful colour, and I thought it would be a really great starting point to create my sky. I also added quite a bit of water to the page so I could get it really moving around and really give a watercolor effect. To give a little bit of dimension and depth to the color as well, I have added some spray from my stash, and that is from Shimmers Paints, and it is Jenny Bee Blue, which is their Vibes, part of their Vibes collection inks. And I really love how this tones so beautifully with that Salvage Patina. And all I've done is I have added a whole heap of water to the page, added heaps of spray, moved it around with my brush, and also just picking up the cardstock and moving it up and down and allowing that to swirl around the page. I wanted it to mainly focus on sort of that. I have left some white space, you'll see there, to give the eye a bit of a rest. This layout is going to be quite busy by the end of it, so I didn't want to completely cover the whole piece of the cardstock, but I really love how that turned out and how this is starting to grow. And look how those colours just pop off that page as I'm gluing down the rainbows, the bows of the rainbow. Is that what they're called? The arcs of the rainbow. What I've also done there when I'm gluing that down is I'm just putting the glue as much as I can into the center of the arcs. And that's because a little bit down the track, once it's all dry and it's not going to move, I do start distressing those edges even further, and I want to pop them up a little bit from the page. Then I want to add just a little bit more emphasis to the background, and I'm adding some white splatters to the page. To do that, I'm just using some white acrylic paint. That's just some cheap paint that's in my stash. And I add a little bit of water to that, swirl it around, and then use a paintbrush and just flick that across the page. I also want to make some bigger splots across on some of it as well. And to do that, I added a little bit more water, quite a bit of paint to my paintbrush, and held up my brush vertically, and then use my fingers and push them down the actual bristles of the brush, and that sort of allows a bigger drop to come down onto the page. Now, that's not something I've learnt. I created myself. I am very influenced or very inspired by a lot of work that Missy Whidden does, and so I've been doing some of those backgrounds that she is just amazing at, and I have learnt a little bit along the way of how to get some of those splatters across the page when using the white acrylic paint. And I really love how that just pops off the page. I just love the white off that pink. It just stands out so beautifully. All right, so I'm grabbing some white cardstock scraps as well, and I'm creating a cloud. I just grabbed a pencil and freehand drew that cloud. I was very amazed at myself. I am not a drawer in any way, and you would think a cloud would be quite simple, I know, but I only had one go, and I really love how this cloud turned out. I was quite proud of myself. I am really jealous of people that can do a lot of hand-drawn drawings and things like that. I'm always in awe when I watch other people do that. Now, to give a little bit of cohesiveness, across the page, I've also distressed the edges of the cloud. And then with the cloud as well, I wanted to give it a little bit of a lift off the page, and I am using the watercolors palette here. Now, this water palette we got in a mixed media kit way before I was a design team member. I think might have been one of my first ever kits I ever purchased, and I was so happy when I got this in the mail. And I use this quite regularly, this pan, and it has lasted so long. It's such a wonderful watercolor kit. And I'm just added some water to the grey palette there, and have gone around the edges with the grey, and used some of my fingers to just smush it around, as well as a paintbrush. Then I thought I need a little bit of sparkle, and I remembered that I had some of this sparkles left from a previous kit as well we got a couple of months ago, which is just this glitter gel, glue gel, and it is just so cute. And I'm just using my fingers there just to rub it around the edges to give a really lovely little glitter and shine to the page. When I do pop this up onto the layout as well, I do pop the cloud up on some foam to give some further dimension to the page. So I'm just cutting off the edges that were off the page there, and I am so loving how this is starting to turn out here. Just adding a little bit of extra glue there just to make sure that everything's stuck down. And then this gave me the opportunity to go along each of the arcs as well and lift up the edges just that little bit more. So I got in with my fingers, and I've distressed it even further by scratching it and lifting it off the page. And that also gives the opportunity to see some of the sky through those arcs of the rainbow as well. And I really love how that sort of sneaks through and pokes through the patterned paper. And I'm really starting to think this is exactly what I had in mind for this layout. So while that glitter gel is drying, it does take a little while to dry. So I've set that aside, and I'm starting to think about how I want to back my photo. And I don't want to have a huge amount of backing on the back of the photo, but I do want to represent all of the colors of the rainbow, just so that there's that cohesiveness from the top of the layout all the way to the bottom. And then I thought of using the cutouts from the cut apart paper, patterned paper. They're just perfect. So I have chosen all of colors that are in the rainbow. So the blue, the pink, the yellows, and I'm just going to layer those underneath the photo. And I'm only leaving the little tiny sections of those. So it's really quite narrow. I really didn't want a big sort of distance between the photo and the backing. I'm also distressing the edges with all of these as well. And again, that is just a way of keeping the layout being quite cohesive, because as this is starting to grow, I know that this layout is also going to get quite busy. So this gives an opportunity just to make sure that all the pieces have sort of a connective tissue, if you will, as the layout is coming together. And for ease, I just use my stapler there just to add that on. And I also pop this. Do I pop this up on foam? I can't remember now, and the layout is not sitting with me. The photo that I'm using today, I should just quickly tell you about the photo. That is a photo of Jacob and my besties, two gorgeous girls. This photo was taken years and years ago when they came to visit for a weekend, and I really don't know how long ago that was. I probably should ask Tina how old the girls were at the time. But yeah, it was just a weekend where they came to visit, and it was sitting around in my... If you've been listening to me recently, I've got a whole pile of photos that I've never scrapped, and they're not sitting in albums, and so I'm really starting to really take a big dent into those. I tried a number of different photos off camera as well, because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do here. But I landed on a black and white photo because the rest of the layout is so bright. I couldn't get any of my color photos to really sit well in this either. So I think the black and white is absolutely perfect for this one. So I'm just experimenting here and thinking about where I'm going to put out all those gorgeous fussy cut flowers. So that's fussy cut out of one of the pattern papers as well. Now I've gone a little bit crazy and thought I need some more clouds on the page as well, just some smaller ones around the page. So I do freehand that again and added 3 additional clouds onto the page. I do distress the edges of those as well. So they're given that dimension of the arcs of the rainbow, and I do sort of sit them over each other as well to sort of give that sort of illusion that they're floating amongst each other, and I really love how that turned out on the page. And I'm thinking that flower on the top left hand side there, as much as I don't have a sun on the page, but the center of that flower is quite golden with those beautiful yellows and oranges, and I thought that was sort of my representation of the sun, so loosely I guess, but I really liked how that just sat at the top there. So I'm just starting to look through around how else I'm going to embellish this. And I'm just going through all the tag pieces from that ephemera pieces, and these are sort of I think it's vellum, or it's a type of sort of vellum, and I thought that would be a perfect title just to fill in some of the gaps there between the flowers and the cloud. But what I do with that, because it's quite thin, I do end up sticking that down on some white cardstock just to make it more into a little bit tougher, I guess, and it was going to make it a whole lot easier because I'd done so much dimension with those arcs. It wasn't going to glue properly. It was going to look a bit weird on the page. So it worked quite well. I turned it into more like a die cut, and that allowed me to be able to sort of move that around the page as well. What else have I done with this one? So I've gone with my triangle, I guess, around the photo. So I'm using my fussy cut out flowers there, just around the photos, just to give it a little bit of interest around the page. And I'm just looking through the cardstock stickers to see what else, because I'm starting to realize now, and I'm starting to think to myself, I need some more but I need to be a bit measured. How much more do I want to add? How much busier do I want to make this page? But I was having so much fun. I knew that I was going to add a little bit more to the page. So you'll see here coming up any moment that I do start to think that I don't have enough flowers. Now, I can't help myself. I always need lots of flowers on a page or lots of layers on a page, and it was starting to look a little bit too bare for me, which is why I mentioned earlier that the layout does become quite, full. And I add some of the fussy cut flowers. I both tuck them underneath the cloud and a few more around the edges of the photos as well. This also allows for that continuation of the flowers. I really like having clusters on my page that have some sort of connection with each other, and that's why it wasn't sitting well with me when there was still quite a bit of white space left on that cloud. So the actual florals weren't really touching something else or weren't really a part of it. So my layout, I guess, I was trying to get that flow that started from the very top all the way to the bottom, but it did need a few more extra flowers just to really finish that off how I really like to see clusters sit on a page. I hope I've made some sense there when I've said that. So this is where I'm just going in and putting that piece of, I guess it's vellum, onto some white cardstock. That was definitely not going to sit properly across the rainbow arcs because I had distressed them quite heavily and they're really sitting up the page. So the glue was never going to look right. So I was really concerned that it was going to wrinkle it up. So I stick that down on just some white cardstock, pop it up on some foam as well to sit above and sort of above the actual rays. So all of that area there is all nice and popped up as well and gives some lovely shadows across the page. And I really love how that turned out. I do add a few of you'll see there that I've added some of the word phrases from the cardstock sheet as well, the cardstock sticker sheet. I just put enjoy life there and also just chillin'. I've also used one of the arrows from the ephemera pack saying happy memories, and also one of the tags from that pack as well saying you can't stop awesome. And what I also made sure I did, another trick around getting to make sure that your layouts are cohesive, is what I was talking about before when I talked about the layers underneath my photo. I put in the layers all the colors that were part of the rainbow. So for this layout, I didn't do tone on tone, so I didn't put pinks with pinks and yellows with yellows. I wanted to have all of the colors over all of the area. So you'll see there, most of the clusters all have all of those colors. They have pink, oranges, yellows, and even the blues because the flowers are blue. So that's why it feels, even though it's quite busy, I feel like it's still quite cohesive around the page. I add some enamel dots to a couple of the centers of the flowers as well, just for a bit of added bling. And you'll see, you might have noticed so far that I have not put any glitter gel around the edges of those smaller clouds. So I do come in and fix that. I realise after I have done the final splatters around the page with just some Dina Wakley gloss white spray, and I also do a couple of more sprays and splatters with the Salvage Patina as well, just to give a little bit more to the page. And then I started realising I hadn't put the glitter gel down, so I do that, and that is pretty much the end of the layout. I love how this one turned out. I hope I've given you some inspiration today. I hope you also, if you have an opportunity to check out the store, I'll leave all the links below, and you can have a look at even getting some information about subscribing. We also have a private subscriber group on Facebook. We have competitions and lots of conversation, and we share all the time. The design team members also do exclusives every month. Last month, as an example, I did a photo a day prompt. So we've had lots of fun playing together, showing everybody our photos each day. So I'd love it if you joined us. So I have some close-ups as well. I also want to thank everyone for your comments. They mean so much to me, and the amount of times that you watch my recordings. I know this one's been pretty long today, so if you're still with me today, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.